I'm going to pause the thread of my last video and go off on a slightly different one here right now. Is that currently, and this ties into some other groups that I'm in. I mentioned the transgender community. You may have figured out that I'm trans already. But I have proceeded from a little bit different background than most public transgenders. That one of my tenets is one that I'd labeled transgender singularity theory. And I've heard someone else refer to a so-called transgender tipping point, but my view is different from theirs in terms of what direction I suspected it were going to have tipped. This TED Talk speaker implying that it was going to lurch forward, whereas, well, I guess you've guessed by implication what direction I was warning it was more likely to have gone. There are singularities or tipping points regarding the intelligence factor, and cautionary tales like the thinly disguised horror movie Idiocracy, which masked itself or veiled itself as trying to pretend that it had something to do with selective breeding, whereas in reality we know that it is the propaganda system and the dumbing down of the news and other manipulations to intellectual expression and interplay that are promoting the dumbing down process. Now, for those who have not succumbed to that and instead have latched onto the fact that internet media and the availability of scholarly articles, journalism, intense analyses of politics, and the news are available at the tap of a touchpad today, and have made use of this and tried their hand at blogging, know that there is an intellectual revolution going on as well. And this is a fast track. You don't want to be left behind with this. That's another premise that I also talk about when I talk about transgender singularity theory. But there is pressure to get smarter. And if you look at some of the videos I have up on my channel, a lot of this comes from the merging of, well, the fact that you're sitting at a laptop means that you're already interfacing with cyber cognition inside this device here. But they're talking more intimately. On one end, they're making computers capable of doing things that previously were only the province of humans, and on the other end, they're making the interface for us with the computer ever increasingly ergonomic. And some of them are becoming prosthetic. Or what's the other word? Orthotic? Neuro-orthotic, when they do the implant thing. But in the meantime, they're going to have these eyeglass mount ones and with a headset that you can just interact with it verbally. I have what I'm going to call a hunch that speech to text conversion, whatever versions of it they're marketing to retail consumers, are toy versions that are sabotage. They are booby trapped. They're worse than nothing. I could hand transcribe this video faster than those garbage apps could do that with what I'm stating. That they don't get anything right. They're pathetic. They're just, you just want to throw it through the window and then pay to have the window repaired afterwards. It's like, what the fuck? If you look at what they can do with computers, there's no question that they've got the speech to text conversion that tramples that into the effing ground. There's no reason on earth that they wouldn't have that up to speed yet. But they don't want to give this to the public because it's a social curb. They want people to be weltered. Blah, 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 blah. If you're lucky, you can type 65 words a minute. Or if you're really, really good, you might be able to type 120 words a minute. That's mostly younger people, though, who might not be yet in the belt as far as wanting to be able to transcribe a speech off of a video yet. So it's a mismatch of the demand and the supply. I mean, the ability and the grasp of what it's good for. Now, as computers become more human-like, well, we're not going to catch up with that once that really does reach the curb. But when you've got computer programs that can converse more on your level, that does create a source of pressure to become more intellectually competent, because that computer is obviously going to be smarter than you are, but you don't want the gap to be... What gap? It's infinite, right? Bad example? Well, maybe it's only been programmed to interact at a level about 5% smarter than you are, but that's still a gap to be made, to be closed. Now, the situation where the mechanics are something that equip you to be more dexterous in communicating your ideas, where you don't have any of these welders in place anymore. Like, I'm going to have to upload these videos, and somebody else is going to have to listen to them, and I didn't make my points clearly enough, so that's a drop-off point. That's an error point. Now, if I had a headset where I could talk into it when I was doing other things where my ideas were coming to me most clearly, then I could play them back 5 seconds later and think, okay, I can correct that. I don't have to go through text with my hands and fight the computer. That's another thing. They've got the computers booby-trapped. Oh, they're going to censor that. I know. Censorship. I'm going off topic twice there. You see, you could self-correct these things and play them back, the last part that you stated, and then back up to the last part before that, vet that, cross-vet the two, because when you vet one thing, it usually creates inner analog problems in the last part that it meshes with, so that's the sort of secondary stuff. But how about the logic? Does the logic still match? Probably, maybe not. Fix that. Just keep going back through, cross-vet the whole thing, and then when you can see it clearly, that's when you get your next big breakthrough, your next big insight. Now, if you're fighting your way through written text or typed text, you know, your ideas just get more deeply buried, and you don't access them. But when you get this accelerative support, this is going to give you the feedback in your mind, and your mind gets a yes signal. You think harder, you get breakthroughs. Keep doing it. You're working with the text. No, damn you! And then after that, you think, man, did I fucking work hard on that? Jeez, who's gonna see it? I can't even. I can barely just follow this. I worked 4 hours on it. I can barely just. Oh, to hell with this! I need an ice cream cone now. It is demoralizing. And that's, if somebody doesn't want you to do something, they can make it extremely demoralizing by effing up the technology. Okay, next video.